Troy Smith, Public Lands Manager for Byron Walker Wildlife Area in Kansas, tells how he manages this area for bobwhite quail and how you can use the same techniques to improve quail hunting on your acreage.
I've been a quail hunter my entire life, and now that I'm a wildlife manager for Kansas Wildlife and Parks, I have the opportunity to improve habitat for quail.
Quail are popular all over the United States. Unfortunately, the hunters in the eastern part of the United States have to go a long ways to find quail. And we get hunters here from the East Coast just coming to find quail. I've talked to hunters from Louisiana, from South Carolina, from Virginia, and they all come here looking for quail. And I often get into conversations with them about habitat management. And that leads to a pretty lively discussion because they're not seeing these practices back home. And they're excited to see the benefits that brings, that they can take advantage of right here on Byron Walker Wildlife Area.
We have 4,600 acres here on Byron Walker Wildlife Area. We have habitat for deer, turkey, quail, waterfowl, and many other wildlife species. But quail are important in that they are descending in their population across the Great Plains, and for that matter the southeast third of the United States. And we think it's important where we have opportunities on public lands to manage quail populations that we maximize our ability to do that. And here on Byron Walker we have probably 3,000 to 3,500 acres of quality quail habitat, and we do our best to maximize the productivity of those acres.
Quail are not big travelers. Their home range will often be less than 40 acres. They may move in and out of that as hunting pressure moves them along, but generally they will stay in that home range when undeterred by hunters. That home range changes from season to season and gets a little bit larger in the winter when supplies are a little bit limited. In this modern age, field sizes are larger, pastures are larger. We have people spraying pastures with airplanes to get rid of brush. All these things work into changing the quail habitat size and how big a home range has to be in order for them to fulfill their daily needs. When you get those things involved, habitat gets restricted and they get forced into more marginal habitat, and they will have to have a larger home range.
If you're new to managing quail, it'll help you to get down to their level. You've got to think you're managing for a 9-inch tall bird that may weigh 6 to 9 ounces. And their life is different down here compared to where we stand at 6 foot tall. They have a lot more challenges that we don't understand. If you get down in the habitat, you can see how excessive thatch or density in the pastures can be an impediment to their movement. You can see how that thatch can cover up seeds that they need in order to feed themselves. Mix that with some snow and you see how important it is to provide a lot of food. Over most of their range, native warm season grasses are the predominant cover for bobwhite quail. The same's true here on Byron Walker Wildlife Area. It's a mixture of big blue stem, little blue stem, Indian grass, switchgrass, and 2 different types of grama as the main species here on Byron Walker. Too much thatch can be a negative, too little thatch can be a negative. There's always a balance that you're trying to reach. Just because you have habitat today doesn't mean it's going to be habitat in 5 years. There's always some kind of manipulation that will improve it for wildlife or especially quail production in the current year. Whatever manipulation you use, you need to understand that you cannot manage native warm season grasses without the use of fire. It is the least expensive and most beneficial habitat manipulation that you can do. It's April 2009 and we're looking at a 2008 burn. We're looking at the structure as well as the plant composition of this disc strip and the density of this burn. We're looking at western ragweed, some foxtail, probably a little deer vetch, and some woolly croton, all beneficial plants to quail broods. They're going to produce a high population of insects through the spring and summer, which are what the broods need in order to get a good start. And then they're going to produce the seed crop that the adults and the entire covey is going to use this fall and winter. The burn from last year is a lot lighter than what we've seen before. The movement capability of quail in that population or in that habitat is going to be a lot easier for them to get around, especially the broodlings. We also have woody cover right next to this, and so we've got a covey headquarters right here where everything they need is within a 20-acre patch. Another habitat type necessary for quail populations is brood rearing cover. It has to be in close proximity to the nesting cover, as quail don't move very far and broods move even slower than the adults, and they need more open ground. And the way we create brood rearing cover here on Byron Walker is by coming in with a disc in October and November and doing a moderate disking. We try to provide a space of disturbed ground where forbs will come in. And forbs are just weeds, annual weeds that come in after disturbance. And those provide the best insects for those brood quail who need that kind of food for the first 12 weeks of life. Insects provide high protein food that supports the growth that those quail broodlings need early in their life cycle. We like the edge created by this annual disking because those hens will nest within 10 yards of an edge generally, and so when the brood comes off they can move right out into brood rearing cover without being exposed to predators. Another concern with broods is getting those broods damp. They're like a little cotton ball with legs, and moving through dew-laden cover or grass, they often get wet and die of exposure. By getting them into a canopied, broadleaf type cover with bare ground at the bottom, they can move freely and hunt for insects without getting wet and getting cold.